A very warm welcome to Spa-Francorchamps, deep in the Belgian countryside, where the GT Cup Championship is making its first foreign foray to the Ardennes countryside, where nestled in the endurance pit garages, the teams were greeted with some typically unpredictable Belgian weather on Friday for qualifying. Very tricky conditions for the drivers as they lined up in the pit lane for their first taste of this legendary Grand Prix venue. It was Alex Martin who led the pack onto the track. It was Alex Martin who set the pole time as well during qualifying, as the drivers made their way tentatively out onto a circuit that many of them have dreamt about racing on, and the GT Cup Championship fulfilling that wish by taking the trip across the channel. Race day dawned a little bit brighter, with a dry line emerging for the 28-car grid, headed by Alex Martin, with Gary Eastwood alongside him on the front row of the grid. Second row, Michael Saunders and Mike Donovan in the invitation car. Group 2, as ever, well represented, with the championship leader, Keith Webster, lining up in 14th position. A lot of racing for him to do over the course of the weekend. And Group 3 being headed by Tom Andrew, with Rob Fenn rounding out the field. Well, the treacherous conditions caught out Mike Donovan on the formation lap behind the safety car, so a gap where he should have been in 4th place on the grid, as Alex Martin leads the field out of the bus stop chicane, and away we go. Martin, the yellow Porsche, with alongside him on the front of the grid, the black Ferrari of Gary Eastwood, as they stream up to the source hairpin. The track still very greasy. You can see the surface water is off. Goes Leon Price into the barrier, so Leon Price goes off and Alex Martin runs wide, and he's going to lose a lot of positions as the rest of the field safely negotiating the source, but Leon Price unfortunately going no further. It's Andy Ruin who has taken the lead from Danny Winstanley, with Michael Saunders there in 3rd position in the TVR, with Ian Hartley, a welcome returnee to the championship, in 4th. So Gary Eastwood also shuffled a little bit down the order, with Sam Mole leading the Group 2 charge. Well, there is what's left of Leon Price's Ferrari, which has had a fairly hefty impact with the barrier. It's still Ruin leading the way from Danny Winstanley, right on his tail, as the field make their way up to Les Combes. KTM Crossbows well represented this weekend. That's Peter Belshaw just chasing down Michael Simons as they head out onto the furthest stretches of the circuit. Well, Leon Price is being recovered to a place of safety. Such is the length of this Spa circuit, there's no need for a safety car. They attach the tow rope and hopefully the Ferrari will go. So Alex Martin going very, very slowly, heading up to Les Combes. So Alex Martin, we saw him go wide as they went through the source. Martin is heading slowly, as also in the background you could see Mike Donovan from where he went off on the formation lap, in car with Francis Galashan, as we chase down Keith Webster and Toby Tarrant-Willis. It's Tarrant-Willis who's immediately in front of us. Galashan not quite close enough to challenge just yet, but you can see how close and ferocious the Multimarque Racing is as ever in the GT Cup Championship. Making their way through Blanchimont are the race leaders, with Danny Winstanley piling on the pressure to Andy Ruin. There's just that single dry line. Now, will Danny Winstanley venture offline to make the move at the bus stop chicane this time? No, he won't. Andy Ruin defends as much as he dares, so he just covers the inside of that dry strip of tarmac. They exit the bus stop, accelerating through up towards the La Source hairpin to complete another lap. Danny Winstanley, his second meeting in the Porsche, having previously raced in the green TVR, which in the interest of reliability he's switched across to the Porsche and is now making it go very nicely indeed. Battle for 3rd place as well has Ian Hartley, looking to the inside of Michael Saunders. Will he make it through? Saunders, the yellow TVR, runs a little bit wide across the AstroTurf, so he's going to lose 3rd place and possibly more. Ian Hartley moving up the order as they make their way down towards Eau Rouge. Yes, it's Ian Hartley who's gone 3rd, Gary Eastwood who's gone 4th, Sam Mole 5th, and Keith Webster also making his way through up into 6th position. So disastrous run through the source there for Michael Saunders. Nothing he can do going through Eau Rouge to claim that back. Back to the head of the field as Andy Ruin leading from Danny Winstanley. Gary Eastwood looking to the inside of his FF course teammate Ian Hartley. Hartley just sticking to the racing line, so there's no way through there for Gary Eastwood. Although Eastwood has really found a fine turn of speed in the second half of the 2010 season. It's been going very nicely indeed. This is Alex Martin, who is going very... it just looks like it's going all wrong for Alex Martin. Well adrift at the rear of the field, and into the pit lane he goes. We saw him going slowly a moment ago, so he is going to be pitting in to get the car checked over by the team. Out of Blanchimont once more, and onto the bus stop chicane for the race leaders, and Danny Winstanley glued to the rear bumper here of Andy Ruin, but there's nothing he can do. Ruin is just holding the middle line, and there's not the Porsche's width there for Danny Winstanley to drive around Andy Ruin without going onto the damp section of the circuit, which is where it could go all so wrong. So instead, Danny Winstanley is just having to become very accustomed to looking at the rear of Andy Ruin's car. Two Porsches have pulled clear of the Ferrari of Ian Hartley, who has still got his teammate Gary Eastwood of company, and Sam Moll going very nicely as well in the KTM Crossbow. This is probably Sam's strongest showing of the season thus far. As they make their way out of the source, you can see the elevation changes here at this wonderful Spa circuit. It's why the drivers enjoy it so much, because they go uphill, they go downhill, they go around the hills. It really is a wonderful driver's circuit and a great challenge for both man and machine. Michael Saunders still behind Keith Webster, not making too much progress. There is the Group 3 leader, Tom Andrew, also in the KTM Crossbow. And rarely in the course of 2010, Tom hasn't got Dan Norris-Jones for immediate company, so Tom Andrew doing his championship charge a whole lot of good, as out of the pit lane comes Alex Martin. So whatever the problem was, not too serious, he's back into the fray. There is the overall championship leader, Keith Webster, who is trying to work his way away from Toby Tarrant-Willis, and then brace of KTM Crossbows behind him, with Peter Belshaw making his way safely through Les Combes. The KTM Crossbows really seem to like the Spa circuit and going very well, as Gary Eastwood's now made his way past Ian Hartley, so Hartley dropping back into the clutches of Sam Moll. Now what can Sam do about challenging Ian Hartley as they make their way towards the bus stop chicane? Well, not much this time around. He's probably 2 or 3 car lengths adrift from where he really needs to be if he's actually going to make a substantive challenge for that position, but instead he really closes the ground going through the bus stop chicane. You can see how agile the KTM Crossbow is as he works his way on to the tail of Ian Hartley. Hartley can see Gary Eastwood driving off into the distance a little bit more. Eastwood now chasing down Danny Winstanley in second position, and then obviously the race leader Andy Ruin, who is some way up the road. Well, making their way down past the pit garages, which is home to the cars in the Spa 24 Hours, a race to which many of these drivers aspire to compete in, and then climbing through the legendary Eau Rouge corner. Well, Keith Webster busy defending again from a multitude of KTM Crossbows and losing the position as well. So down a position to Benjamin Harvey goes Toby Tarrant-Willis and Keith Webster. It's Keith Webster who's lost out, as he is going to go behind the Porsche as well. So Benjamin Harvey gaining the position. They go 3 abreast down towards Eau Rouge, and Keith Webster on the wet part of the circuit surges through, takes back the position. Superb driving from Webster, and well, Benjamin Harvey no answer to that, nor has Toby Tarrant-Willis and Peter Belshaw. Making her way in to the source there is Fiona James, making one of her first outings in 2010, the Ginetta G50, as she sets off in pursuit of Tommy Dreeland. In turn, Tommy Dreeland chasing down Colin Broster as they run down the hill towards Eau Rouge, then climbing back up through Eau Rouge on towards the Kemmel Straight, and then Les Combes, which does offer a reasonably good overtaking opportunity. Here is the battle for second and third position, as Danny Winstanley has fallen very much into the clutches of Gary Eastwood, and Gary Eastwood beginning to ask all the right sorts of questions of Danny Winstanley as they make their way down from La Source past the pit garages and the teams watching on the pit wall, and then making their way through Eau Rouge. You can see the commitment from Danny Winstanley there, the Porsche bobbing over the curbs, but then they come onto the Kemmel Straight as Andy Ruin, the race leader, makes his way into Les Combes. Gary Eastwood looks to the inside Danny Winstanley, and is Eastwood going to do it? Yes, he does. He slides past Danny Winstanley, so Gary Eastwood moves up into second position. That was really nicely judged by Gary. There was nothing that Danny Winstanley could do. We've got to spin a little bit lower down the order. That is Rupert Martin in number 49. He's going to recover no harm done, just a couple of blushes as he rejoins the fray. Well, Francis Galashan has got Tommy Dreeland for company now, so they accelerate on towards the Kemmel Straight as Andy Ruin in the closing stages here, making his way into the bus stop chicane, clipping the curbs. It's been a textbook performance from Andy Ruin as he accelerates out of the bus stop and on to take the checkered flag. A wonderful win from Andy Ruin. You can see him punching the air with delight in the cockpit. He is overjoyed with that second place going to Gary Eastwood after a very fine drive, and third position to Danny Winstanley, sole headlight ablaze. A great drive from Andy Ruin to take the win from Gary Eastwood, with Danny Winstanley in third, Ian Hartley fourth position, and Peter Belshaw taking Group 2 honours and fifth overall. So to give you the group results, Group 1 was the top three in the race: Andy Ruin, Gary Eastwood and Danny Winstanley. Group 2, it was KTM Crossbar affair with Peter Belshaw from Benjamin Harvey and Francis Galashan, and Tom Andrew took Group 3 honours from the effervescent David Bottrell. Well, the drivers achieving a lifetime ambition, spraying the champagne on the Spa podium.
Coming up to just at the start, I could see that Alex was going a little bit quick into La Source, so I braked a little bit earlier, came on the inside and then drifted out, and both of them went off. And once I was on the dry line, it was going to take someone pretty brave to go past me on the wet one.
I knew I had a massive gap at the start of the race, no one was behind me, but I had a bit of an issue with my fuel. I had to short shift and just make sure I could actually get to the end of the race, which was a lot of mathematics in my head going on while I was driving, so that was a bit of fun.
Well, what will the Belgian weather have in store for race 2? Find out after the break.